Chapter 2. Morgan was just finishing her morning coffee when her phone buzzed with a new email notification. She glanced at the screen and saw that it was from her agent, Jonathan. Her heart skipped a beat as she opened the message, her mind racing with possibilities. The subject line read, "Invitation to the Global Arts Foundation dinner." Morgan's eyes widened as she skimmed the email. The Global Arts Foundation was one of the most prestigious philanthropic organizations in the world, known for its annual dinner that brought together elite celebrities, influential producers, and top-tier executives. This was the kind of event she had been dreaming about, the kind that could change the trajectory of her career. "Dear Morgan," the email began, "we're thrilled to let you know that you've been invited to attend the Global Arts Foundation dinner in New York City next month. This is a fantastic opportunity to network with some of the biggest names in the industry. Let us know if you're available and we'll coordinate the details." Morgan's pulse quickened as she read the words. She couldn't believe it. This was exactly the kind of break she had been hoping for. The dinner was known for being an exclusive event, with only the most elite invited. If she played her cards right, this could be her chance to make connections that could propel her to the next level. Without wasting a second, Morgan opened a new tab on her laptop and typed in the foundation's name, followed by past guests. She scrolled through the images and articles that popped up, her excitement growing with each familiar face she saw. A list after a list celebrity. These were the kinds of people who attended this dinner. These were the kinds of people she needed to be rubbing shoulders with. She couldn't help but let out a small squeal of excitement, her mind already spinning with possibilities. This was it. This was the kind of opportunity that could put her on the map. If she could impress the right people, maybe land a conversation with a producer or director, it could open doors she had only dreamed of. But first, she needed the perfect dress. Morgan opened another tab, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she searched for evening gowns. She wanted something that would make a statement, something that would turn heads the moment she walked into the room. After scrolling through dozens of options, she found it a stunning teal halter mermaid dress. The dress was a masterpiece of design, hugging the body in all the right places and flaring out dramatically at the bottom. The colour was rich and bold, the kind that would stand out in a sea of black and red gowns. She could already picture herself in it, gliding across the floor, catching the eye of every important person in the room. Morgan added the dress to her cart, her fingers trembling with anticipation. She knew that this was more than just an outfit. This was her chance to make an unforgettable impression. She was going to look every bit the star she knew she could be. As she finalized her purchase, Morgan's thoughts shifted to the dinner itself. She imagined herself mingling with the industry's elite, laughing at their jokes, charming them with her wit and beauty. She would be strategic, making sure to introduce herself to key players, dropping hints about her aspirations without being too obvious. This was her moment to shine, and she wasn't going to let it slip through her fingers. With the dress ordered and the dinner invitation confirmed, Morgan leaned back in her chair, a satisfied smile on her face. The next few weeks would be crucial. She would prepare, research everyone who would be there, and make sure she was ready for whatever came her way. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for, the one that could finally take her from almost there to made it. And she was determined to seize it with everything she had. The Blacktown car glided through the busy streets of New York City, the city lights reflecting off the tinted windows as Morgan leaned back against the plush leather seat. The driver navigated the traffic with practiced ease, while Morgan stared out at the bustling city, a mixture of excitement and nerves churning in her stomach. She was finally here, in New York, for the Global Arts Foundation dinner, a night that could change everything, But as the car pulled up to the hotel where she'd be staying, Morgan couldn't help but feel a twinge of disappointment. The hotel was nice, even upscale, but it wasn't the kind of luxury she had envisioned. Stepping out of the car, she took in the polished marble floors, the grand chandeliers, and the attentive staff. It was all very elegant, but it wasn't the Ritz or the Plaza. She sighed, reminding herself that she was still on the cusp of where she wanted to be. I'm almost there, she thought. Just a little further. The bellhop escorted her to her room, which was spacious and well-appointed, with a king-sized bed, a sitting area, and a view of the city skyline. It was everything she needed for the night, but Morgan couldn't help wishing it were just a bit more luxurious. A suite with a terrace, perhaps, or a bathroom with a soaking tub and city views. She set her bags down, running a hand through her freshly treated hair. She had gotten a keratin treatment before coming to New York, smoothing out her curls into a sleek and manageable texture. She was biracial, with a mix of her mother's African-American heritage and her father's European roots, and while she loved her natural curls, she wanted a polished look for tonight. She pulled her hair into a sleek updo, every strand perfectly in place, a style that would complement the teal mermaid dress waiting in her closet. Morgan glanced at her watch, noting that she still had a couple of hours before the event. She pulled out her phone and texted her friend Samuel, a talented makeup artist who had been working in New York for the past few months. They had met years ago on the set of Ties, and he had been her go-to for special events ever since. Morgan. Hey, I'm in town for the big dinner tonight. Any chance you're free to help me out with makeup? His reply was almost instant. Samuel. For you, always. Come by my studio. I'll hook you up. Morgan smiled, feeling a wave of relief. She knew Samuel would make her look stunning, and she could always count on him to keep her calm before a big event. She grabbed her clutch and headed out, eager to see her friend. Samuel's studio was in a trendy part of town, a space filled with mirrors, makeup palettes, and photos of celebrities he had worked with. When Morgan arrived, Samuel greeted her with a big hug, his warm personality instantly putting her at ease. You look gorgeous already, he said, eyeing her hair. But let's make you look unforgettable. Morgan laughed, settling into the makeup chair as Samuel got to work. He knew her face well, enhancing her best features with a flawless foundation, a smoky eye that made her brown eyes pop, and a bold, berry-coloured lip. As he worked, they chatted about the latest industry gossip, and Morgan found herself relaxing, the earlier nerves melting away. You're going to kill it tonight, Samuel said, as he put the finishing touches on her look. They won't know what hit them. Morgan smiled, studying her reflection in the mirror. She looked exactly how she wanted, sophisticated, confident, and every bit the rising star she was aiming to be. Thank you, she said, squeezing Samuel's hand. You always know how to make me feel like a princess, he grinned. Just doing my job. Now go out there and show them who's boss. Back at the hotel, Morgan slipped into her teal mermaid dress, the fabric hugging her curves perfectly. She took a deep breath, smoothing down the skirt and adjusting her earrings. This was it, the moment she had been preparing for. As she stood in front of the mirror, taking in her full reflection, she reminded herself to stay calm. Tonight could be the night that changed everything, the night that took her from the brink of stardom to being a name everyone knew. With one last glance in the mirror, Morgan picked up her clutch, squared her shoulders, and headed out the door. The car was waiting to take her to the event, and as she settled into the back seat, she couldn't help but feel a surge of anticipation. This was her moment, and she was ready to seize it. The car glided smoothly through the streets of Manhattan, bringing Morgan closer to the grand venue where the Global Arts Foundation dinner was being held. As they approached, she could see the red carpet rolled out, lined with photographers and flashes going off as celebrities made their entrances. Morgan's heart pounded in her chest as the car came to a stop. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that this was her chance, her moment to be seen and remembered. As she stepped out onto the red carpet, the cameras turned toward her, capturing her in the teal mermaid dress that made her feel like a goddess. She smiled confidently, posing for the cameras, giving them exactly what they wanted. But as she made her way inside, Morgan quickly realized that tonight might not go exactly as she had hoped. The grand ballroom was a sight to behold, with glittering chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the crowd of elegantly dressed guests. The room buzzed with conversation and laughter, the air thick with the scent of expensive perfume and anticipation. Morgan took it all in, feeling a mix of awe and trepidation. But as the evening unfolded, Morgan began to feel the sting of being on the outside looking in. The A-listers, the ones she had been so eager to meet, seemed to gravitate toward each other, forming tight-knit circles that were nearly impossible to penetrate. They exchanged stories and laughs, their familiarity with one another evident in every gesture. Morgan smiled and mingled as best she could, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being sidelined, an outsider in a room full of insiders. She managed to get a few pictures taken with some important people, positioning herself strategically to ensure she was captured in conversation with industry heavyweights. She knew how important it was to create the right image, to make it seem like she belonged, even if she didn't feel that way. But the connection she had hoped to make seemed elusive, slipping through her fingers as the night wore on. Just as she was beginning to feel a wave of disappointment wash over her, Morgan caught the eye of a woman standing at the edge of the room. She was stunning, with long, dark hair and an air of effortless elegance that immediately drew Morgan in. It took her a moment to recognize her. It was Chloe Valero, the wealthy socialite and fashion influencer who was always in the pages of glossy magazines, usually photographed with her famous European model husband. Chloe smiled warmly as Morgan approached, and they struck up a conversation. To Morgan's surprise, Chloe was friendly and down-to-earth, with a disarming sense of humour. They chatted about the event, fashion, and the challenges of navigating the industry. Chloe shared stories of her travels, her life as a jet-setter, and the pressures that came with being in the public eye. Morgan found herself relaxing, enjoying the conversation in a way she hadn't all evening. Chloe's openness was a breath of fresh air, a contrast to the guardedness she had encountered from others. As they talked, Morgan began to see Chloe as more than just a socialite. She was a potential ally, someone who could open doors for her that she hadn't even known existed. "You should join me for drinks tomorrow night," Chloe said casually, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. "A few of us are getting together. Nothing too fancy, just good company and a bit of fun. I think you'd enjoy it." Morgan's heart leaped at the invitation. This was exactly the kind of opportunity she had been hoping for, a chance to get to know her better, to be introduced to her circle, and maybe, just maybe, to start making the kinds of connections that could take her career to the next level. "I'd love that," Morgan replied, trying to keep her excitement in check. "Thank you so much for the invite." Chloe smiled, a knowing glint in her eye. "Great. Here's my number. I'll text you the details." As the evening drew to a close, Morgan reflected on the night. It hadn't gone exactly as she had planned. She hadn't made the splash she had hoped for, and the A-listers had largely kept to themselves. But she had made one important connection, one that she knew could be valuable in ways she couldn't yet fully understand. As she left the event and headed back to her hotel, Morgan's disappointment was tempered by a growing sense of optimism. This wasn't the breakthrough she had imagined, but it was a step in the right direction. She knew that in this industry, it wasn't always about making the biggest impression right away. Sometimes it was about building relationships, one small step at a time. And with Chloe as a new contact in her pocket, Morgan felt like she was on the verge of something significant. Tomorrow night could be the start of something new, a chance to move closer to the life she had always dreamed of. The next morning, Morgan woke up with a renewed sense of purpose. The previous night's invitation from Chloe had given her a boost, and she was determined to make the most of her day in New York City. After a quick breakfast, she set out to do what she did best: curate the perfect image for her Instagram followers. As she strolled down Fifth Avenue, Morgan's eyes darted from one luxury storefront to the next. New York was a playground for the fashion-forward, and today she was going to play the part to perfection. She took her time, pausing every so often to snap a photo of herself in front of a chic display or an iconic landmark. The photos were carefully staged. She made sure her hair was perfectly in place, her smile just the right mix of genuine and alluring. She knew her followers loved seeing her in the city, and the more polished and glamorous her posts looked, the more engagement they would get. But beneath the surface, there was a layer of artifice. Morgan wasn't just having fun, she was working, crafting an image that was as much a part of her career as her acting. After a couple of hours of shopping and Instagramming, Morgan found herself in front of a luxury boutique that carried the latest it bags. She had been eyeing a particular purse for weeks, a sleek, black leather number with gold hardware that would be perfect for tonight's outing with Chloe. She knew that appearances mattered, and she wanted to make the best possible impression around Chloe and her high-profile friends. The purse was expensive, but Morgan didn't hesitate. This was an investment in her image, in the persona she needed to project, and she'd play her role to perfection. Morgan adjusted the collar of her tan Max Mara camel coat as she approached the upscale bar, its warm lighting casting a golden hue over the polished surfaces and plush seating. This coat had been a splurge, a calculated investment in her appearance, a necessity for the life she was determined to create. She felt the weight of her discreet Brunello Cucinelli bag on her shoulder, the subtle luxury of it, a quiet confidence booster. Tonight, everything had to be perfect. What nobody knew was that Morgan had been studying Chloe's style on Instagram for months, analysing every outfit, every accessory, learning the language of understated luxury that seemed to come so naturally to Chloe and her circle. She'd studied her long before the gala, putting her down on a hypothetical list of people she'd be friends with once she was in the right circles. Tonight, Chloe was dressed in head-to-toe black. Sleek, timeless, and utterly flawless. Morgan instantly recognised the Max Mara sweater, the chunk accept leather skirt that clung to Chloe's slender frame, the Stuart Weitzman heels that added just the right amount of height, and the Simkai bag that was more of a statement than any logo could ever be. No labels were visible, but to Morgan's trained eye, each piece was as clear as a signature on a canvas. As she approached the table where Chloe and her friends were seated, Morgan took a deep breath, reminding herself of the plan. This was not a time to dominate the conversation, nor was it a time to fade into the background. The balance was delicate, she needed to be, present enough to be noticed, but not so much that she risked being perceived as desperate. She could already feel the slight flutter of nerves in her chest, but she pushed them down. This was her moment. "Hi, Chloe," Morgan greeted, her voice steady as she slipped into the seat next to her. Chloe looked up from her drink, a small smile playing on her lips. "Morgan, glad you could make it. This is Liv and Sasha," she introduced, gesturing to the two women sitting across the table. Liv had the look of someone who had graced the cover of several magazines, her blonde hair swept back in an elegant chignon, while Sasha exuded an artistic edge, her dark hair cascading in waves over her shoulders. Both women oozed the same effortless elegance that Chloe did, and Morgan's heart skipped a beat. "Nice to meet you," Morgan said, offering a warm smile. She noticed the barely perceptible glance Liv and Sasha exchanged. They were sizing her up, calculating whether she belonged. The conversation quickly resumed, flowing naturally between the three women, as if they had known each other for years. They talked about upcoming events, the latest art exhibit at the Met, and a charity auction one of their friends was hosting. Morgan listened intently, nodding at the right moments, laughing softly at their jokes, careful not to interrupt. She took mental notes, absorbing the way they spoke, the topics they discussed, even the way they sipped their drinks, slowly, languidly, as if they had all the time in the world. Morgan's own drink sat mostly untouched in front of her. She wasn't here to drink, she was here to learn, to observe, and to blend in just enough that they would forget she wasn't one of them yet. When the conversation shifted to fashion, Morgan felt a thrill of anticipation. This was her chance to subtly showcase her knowledge without coming across as trying too hard. "Did you see the latest collection from the row?" Chloe asked, her eyes lighting up. "I did," Morgan replied, keeping her tone casual, as if she were discussing something as mundane as the weather. "I loved the clean lines and the way they played with proportions. It felt so timeless." Chloe raised an eyebrow, a small smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. "Exactly. Timeless. That's what I love about their pieces." Morgan's heart soared at the validation. She was on the right track. As the night wore on, Morgan continued to listen more than she spoke, letting Chloe and her friends take the lead. She learned about their upcoming plans, the exclusive events they were attending, the designers they favoured. Each piece of information was filed away, ready to be used when the time was right. But as much as she was absorbing from them, she was also making sure they absorbed her presence. She was careful to make small, meaningful contributions to the conversation, enough to be remembered, but not so much that she overshadowed anyone. It was a delicate dance, and Morgan was determined to perfect it. When the evening finally drew to a close, Chloe leaned in and gave Morgan a warm smile. "It was great having you join us tonight, Morgan. We should do this again sometime." Morgan's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral, a polite smile on her lips. "I'd love that." When it was time to leave, Morgan walked out of the bar next to Chloe, still buzzing from the success of the evening. The cool night air hit her face as they stepped onto the sidewalk, the bright lights of the city casting a glow around them. Then, just as she was about to say goodbye, the unmistakable flash of cameras caught her attention. Paparazzi had gathered across the street, drawn by Chloe's presence. Chloe waved at them nonchalantly, clearly used to the attention, but Morgan felt a thrill of excitement. This was exactly what she had hoped for, a chance to be seen, to be photographed with someone as high profile as her. As they walked together, the photographers snapped away, capturing shot after shot of the two women side by side. Morgan made sure to stay close to Chloe, turning slightly to give the cameras her best angle. She knew that these photos would be everywhere by tomorrow, and she wanted to make sure she looked the part. "Looks like they found us," Chloe said with a playful smile. Morgan laughed, playing it cool. "Guess it comes with the territory," Chloe nodded, linking arms with Morgan as they continued down the street, the flashes still going off behind them. For a moment, Morgan felt like she had truly made it, like she was finally stepping into the world she had always dreamed of. When they reached the corner, Chloe gave her a quick hug. "Let's do this again soon," she said. "I had a great time." "Me too," Morgan replied, her smile genuine. "I'd love that." As they parted ways, Morgan couldn't help but glance back at the photographers, who were still lingering, hoping for one last shot. She knew that by tomorrow, the images would be all over social media and entertainment sites. And with her next to Chloe, people would start to take notice. As she made her way back to her hotel, Morgan felt a sense of triumph. The evening had gone better than she could have imagined. She had made the right connections, worn the right outfit, and been in the right place at the right time. She was playing the game, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like she was winning. The next morning, Morgan woke up early, the excitement from the previous night still lingering in her mind. She reached for her phone, eager to see if the paparazzi photos had made their way online. After all, she had played the part perfectly. Every smile, every gesture, every detail of her outfit had been meticulously curated to create the image she wanted to project. She opened her social media apps and quickly found what she was looking for. The entertainment sites had already picked up the photos, splashing them across their pages with the typical fanfare reserved for celebrity sightings. Morgan clicked on the first link, her heart racing as she scrolled through the images. There she was, walking side by side with Chloe, both looking effortlessly chic as they left the upscale bar. The photos were just as she had hoped, perfectly lit, capturing the confidence she had exuded throughout the evening. But as she began to read the captions, her excitement faded. Chloe Valero spotted in NYC after exclusive event. One headline read, "Fashion influencer Chloe and a friend seen leaving a high-end bar," said another. Morgan's heart sank as she realized that, despite all her efforts, the media hadn't even bothered to identify her by name. She wasn't Morgan Smith, the actress from Ties. She was just a friend. The disappointment hit her hard. After everything she had done to ensure she stood out, she was still being overshadowed, reduced to an anonymous figure in Chloe's glamorous world. She continued to scroll, hoping to find at least one outlet that had recognized her, that had acknowledged her presence as more than just an accessory to Chloe's fame. Finally, she spotted a few comments under one of the photos on Instagram. "That's Morgan from Ties. How do they know each other?" one person wrote. "Isn't she on that cable show? Wonder what she's doing with Chloe," another commented. The recognition was there, but it was faint, almost an afterthought in a sea of comments focused on Chloe's outfit, her husband, and her enviable lifestyle. Morgan sighed, sinking back into the pillows of her hotel bed. This wasn't how she had imagined it. She had thought this would be her moment, the one where she finally broke through and started being seen as a real player in the industry. But instead, she was just a footnote, a background character in someone else's story. She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath to steady herself. This is all part of the fame game, she reminded herself. It wasn't the first time she had felt this way, and she knew it wouldn't be the last. Fame was fickle, and breaking through to the next level wasn't going to happen overnight. It was a slow, often frustrating climb, filled with setbacks and disappointments. She opened her phone again, this time scrolling through her own Instagram. The photos she had taken the day before, posing in front of luxury stores, sipping coffee at a trendy cafe, were performing well. Her followers were liking and commenting, telling her how fabulous she looked, how much they loved her style. It was a small consolation, but it reminded her that she did have an audience, that there were people who were paying attention. Morgan posted a new photo from the night before, one that had taken just before she left for the bar. She was in her all-white ensemble, her camel coat draped over her shoulders, looking every bit the rising star she wanted to be. She added a caption that hinted at the exclusive night she'd had, tagging Chloe with a wink. "In the city that never sleeps, with friends who always shine. #NYC nights. #girls night." She knew it was all part of the game, projecting confidence, even when she felt unsure, showcasing her life as if she were already where she wanted to be. The truth was, she was still fighting for her place, still working tirelessly to carve out her spot in an industry that didn't make it easy for anyone. But Morgan also knew that she couldn't afford to stop. Every day was a new opportunity, and she was determined to keep pushing forward, no matter how long it took. One day, she wouldn't just be the friend in the photo, she'd be the name everyone knew. With that thought in mind, Morgan set her phone down and got up to get ready for the day. She had another meeting later, another chance to keep building her brand. And no matter how many setbacks she faced, she wasn't going to stop until she got exactly what she wanted. Morgan's return to Boston felt different this time. The familiar sights of the city, the comfort of being back home, all seemed a little too routine, a little too small. Her recent trip to New York had left her with a lingering sense of dissatisfaction. She wasn't content to just be another face in the crowd anymore. She wanted more. She needed more. As she sat in the back of the car on the way from the airport, her mind was racing. The recognition she craved wasn't going to come from just another role on TV or a handful of social media posts. She needed something that would set her apart, something that would establish her as a brand, not just an actress. She wanted to be seen as more than a character on a cable show. She wanted to be a name, a voice, a force in the industry. Then, as the car turned onto her street, an idea began to take shape in her mind, an idea that, if executed correctly, could catapult her straight into the A-list. A lifestyle blog. Morgan's heart raced as she thought it through. It wasn't just about acting anymore. It was about creating a platform where her ideas, her tastes, her personality could be front and center. She could recommend restaurants, talk about the best places to eat, share travel tips, fashion advice, everything that made her who she was. She had seen several household names do it successfully, turning their blogs into empires. Now, it was her turn. She could already envision it, a sleek, stylish website filled with content that showcased her life, her experiences, and her recommendations. It would be a way to connect with her audience on a deeper level, to show them who she really was beyond the roles she played on TV. And more importantly, it would be a way to establish herself as a brand, as someone with influence and taste. By the time the car pulled up to her apartment building, Morgan had made up her mind. This was it. This was the idea that would take her to the next level. Without wasting any time, she grabbed her phone and scrolled through her contacts until she found Jonathan's number. Her agent had been with her for years, guiding her through the ups and downs of her career. He knew the industry well, and she trusted his instincts, even if they didn't always align with her ambitions. The phone rang twice before Jonathan picked up. "Morgan, welcome back. How was New York?" "Hi, Jonathan. It was eye-opening," Morgan replied, choosing her words carefully. "Listen, I've been thinking a lot, and I have an idea I want to run by you." "Sure, what's on your mind?" "I'm going to start a lifestyle blog," Morgan said, the excitement in her voice palpable. "It's going to be big, Jonathan. I'll cover everything, restaurants, travel, fashion, you name it. It'll be a way for me to really connect with people, to establish myself as a brand." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, and Morgan could almost hear Jonathan weighing his response. "A blog, huh?" he finally said. "I mean, it sounds interesting, but do you think it's the right move right now? I don't want you to get distracted from your acting career." Morgan expected his apprehension, but she wasn't deterred. "This isn't a distraction, Jonathan. It's an expansion. Look at some of the biggest names out there. They've all got their own platforms. It's how they stay relevant, how they build their brands beyond just their work on screen. I want that too. I need it." "I see where you're coming from," Jonathan replied, his tone cautious. "But running a blog takes a lot of time and effort. You'll need a team, content creators, someone to manage it. It's not something you can do half-heartedly." "I know that," Morgan said firmly. "That's why I want to meet and talk it through with you. We can go over the details, figure out the best way to approach it. Trust me, Jonathan, this is the next step for me. We just need to strategize. Another pause, but this time Morgan sensed a shift in Jonathan's demeanour. He was still hesitant, but she could tell he was beginning to see the potential. All right, he said finally. Let's meet for lunch tomorrow and discuss it. I want to make sure we do this right if we're going to do it. A smile spread across Morgan's face as she hung up the phone. She had done it. She had planted the seed. Now, it was time to nurture it, to make sure it grew into something that would propel her career to the next level. As she stepped out of the car and headed up to her apartment, Morgan felt a renewed sense of determination. This blog wasn't just an idea, it was her ticket to the A-list. It was the vehicle through which she would finally show the world who Morgan Smith really was. Not just an actress on a cable TV show, but a tastemaker, an influencer, a brand in her own right. And she was ready to make it happen. The city outside Morgan's apartment was quiet, the streetlights casting a soft glow through her windows. Inside, however, her mind was anything but calm. Morgan was up late, sitting at her desk in the living room, her laptop screen illuminating her face as she feverishly typed away. Ideas were flowing faster than she could keep up with them, and she was determined to capture every single one. Her caffeine-fueled brainstorming session had started hours ago, and now it was well past midnight. Rick, who had long since gone to bed, poked his head into the living room, his expression a mix of concern and exhaustion. Morgan, you've got to get some sleep. It's already past 1 a.m. Morgan barely glanced up, her fingers still flying over the keyboard. Just a few more things. I'm on a roll, Rick sighed, shaking his head with a resigned smile. All right, but don't say I didn't warn you. When Rick retreated to the bedroom, Morgan took a deep breath and tried to refocus. She was on the verge of finalizing her plan, her excitement overriding her fatigue. She envisioned the blog as more than just a platform for her favourite things. It was going to be a celebration of female empowerment. She would feature interviews with influential women, share inspiring stories, and provide a space for women to connect and support each other. The name of the blog, which had come to her in a flash of inspiration, was The Teeny. It was a nod to the popular espresso martini, a drink that she felt embodied the modern, dynamic woman. The name was catchy and sophisticated, just like the brand she intended to build. By the time the clock struck 2, Morgan finally decided it was time for bed. She closed her laptop and made a mental note to review her presentation in the morning. As she climbed into bed, her mind was still racing with ideas, but she felt a profound sense of satisfaction. She was ready to pitch her vision to Jonathan. The next day, Morgan woke up feeling refreshed and energized. She carefully selected her outfit for the meeting, an elegant black dress paired with sleek heels. The dress was classic and chic, perfect for making a strong impression. She spent extra time on her makeup, ensuring that she looked polished and professional. When she arrived at the cafe where she was meeting Jonathan, she carried a sleek leather portfolio containing her presentation. She greeted him with a warm smile and a confident handshake before they took their seats at a quiet corner table. Jonathan glanced at her, a look of curiosity and a hint of skepticism in his eyes. So, you mentioned you had a big idea. Let's hear it. Morgan took a deep breath and opened her portfolio. Jonathan, I'm excited to introduce you to my new project, The Teeny. It's going to be a lifestyle blog that combines my passion for fashion, travel, and food with a focus on female empowerment. I want it to be a space where we celebrate modern women, share inspiring stories, and provide a platform for influential voices. Jonathan's eyebrows rose as Morgan continued, outlining her plans for the blog. She described the content she envisioned, from restaurant recommendations and travel tips to interviews with powerful women in various fields. She had already drafted a list of potential high, high-profile figures to reach out to for interviews, including successful entrepreneurs, activists, and artists. As she wrapped up her presentation, she looked at Jonathan, who had been listening intently. The name, the teeny, is inspired by the espresso martini, a drink that symbolizes the modern, sophisticated woman. I believe this name captures the essence of what I want to achieve with the blog. Jonathan stared at her for a moment, taking in the scope of her vision and the passion behind it. His expression was a mix of admiration and contemplation. "You've put a lot of thought into this, Morgan," he said finally. "I have to admit, I was a bit skeptical at first, but your enthusiasm and your plans are impressive. I can see how this could become a significant platform for you." Morgan's heart skipped a beat. "So, you think it's a good idea?" Jonathan nodded, a smile forming on his lips. "Yes, it's a great idea. And I admire your go-getter attitude. If you're as committed to making this work as you are right now, I have no doubt that the teeny could be a major success." Relief and excitement flooded through Morgan. "Thank you, Jonathan. I really believe this could be the breakthrough I've been looking for. I'm ready to get started and make it happen." As they finished their lunch, Jonathan and Morgan discussed the next steps. How to build a team, secure partnerships, and launch the blog with a strong initial presence. Morgan left the cafe feeling more determined than ever, knowing that this was the beginning of something truly significant. The restaurant was a swanky, dimly lit spot in the heart of Boston's theatre district. Jonathan arrived early, finding a corner table that offered a bit of privacy, but still allowed for a view of the bustling restaurant floor. He ordered a glass of red wine and settled in, ready to vent his frustrations. Alec, his colleague, arrived a few minutes later. Alec was known for managing several A-list and B-list clients with a knack for navigating the complex world of celebrity. His reputation for handling high-maintenance personalities and securing big deals had earned him a lot of respect in the industry. Jonathan was grateful for the opportunity to unload on someone who understood the pressures of the business. "Jonathan, good to see you," Alec greeted, sliding into the seat across from him. "How's everything?" Jonathan forced a smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Oh, busy as ever. But let's just say I'm glad to be here. I need to vent." Alec raised an eyebrow. "Go ahead." "What's got you worked up?" Jonathan took a sip of his wine, then leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "It's this old client I've been dealing with. Let's just call her Strawberry. She's been all over the place with her latest project." Alec nodded, an amused grin coming to his face. "What's going on with her?" Jonathan sighed, clearly frustrated. "She's decided she wants to start a blog. A lifestyle blog. I mean, seriously, who even reads those anymore? It feels like she's just throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks." Alec chuckled softly, taking a sip of his own drink. "Blogs can be hit or miss, that's true. But what's really bothering you?" "It's the way she's approaching it," Jonathan continued, his voice tinged with exasperation. "She's using every trendy buzzword out there, talking about empowerment and authenticity, but it all feels so forced. She's trying so hard to be seen as the next big thing, when really, she should just be herself. But no, she's crafting this elaborate image that's so trendy it's almost cliché." Alec leaned back, knowing all too well about those types of clients. "So, you think she's missing the mark?" "Absolutely," Jonathan said, shaking his head. "She's got this idea of what she thinks people want to see. But it's like she's not even aware of how outdated it is. People don't want buzzwords. They want genuine content. But she's so focused on projecting this image that she's losing sight of what could actually resonate with her audience." Alec looked at him with a mixture of understanding and pity. "Sounds like you've got your hands full, managing a client with a grand vision, but without a clear grasp of reality can be tricky." Jonathan nodded, taking another sip of his wine. Exactly. And the worst part is, I have to go along with it because she's the client. It's my job to make her vision work, even if I think it's a waste of time. Alec chuckled, shaking his head. You know, it's part of the job. Sometimes you've got to guide them gently, even if they're heading in a direction that seems off course. And sometimes you just have to let them learn the hard way. Jonathan smiled wryly. I guess so. I just wish she'd see that being herself would be enough. Instead, she's trying to be this manufactured version of what she thinks is trendy, and it's driving me nuts. Alec clinked his glass against Jonathan's. Here's to hoping that Strawberry finds her way, or at least that you manage to navigate this situation with some grace. Jonathan laughed, a bit of the tension easing from his shoulders. Here's to that. And here's to surviving the trials of the job. As the evening continued, the conversation shifted to other topics, industry gossip, upcoming projects, and the occasional offbeat anecdote. But the frustration Jonathan had expressed lingered in his mind, a reminder of the challenges he faced in managing clients with grand ambitions and shifting visions. By the time they parted ways, Jonathan felt a bit better. Sometimes, all it took was a chance to vent and share the burdens of the job with someone who understood. He knew he would have to continue working with Morgan and try to help her make her vision a reality. But for now, the night had been a welcome escape from the stress.